here. Thank you.
Haven't seen you in a while.
I'm here. I've been around.
Yeah, I know. So we're glad you're here today. We've been not always doing community brief. Back to that again.
Right.
Oh, community briefs. Hi, Buzz.
Good evening.
Hi, Margie. Hi, Gary. Oh, it's a full house of community people.
I'll be right back. I have to get my glass of wine. I'll be right back.
I'm thinking maybe we should cancel something in the meeting to discuss this Richmond situation. These are from the Richmond Costco, same price as last year, right? Come on, people. That's like barely the size of a quarter. Same price, 20% less peanut butter cup.
Oh,
Yeah, but I don't look at text. You gotta call me.
You'll be quiet.
All right, Hector. Okay, thanks.
What was
now,
that?
you're supposed to be advocating for not just candies with our kids, right? We really work very hard trying not to just candy. I
We
say some
have-
for myself.
At our haunted house on Nickel Avenue, we have gift bags for kids who don't want candy. So there's bubbles and stickers and all kinds of little toys. That's called the Teal Pumpkin Project for allergies for kids with food allergy awareness. And just the parents who don't want their kids hyped up because they're already hyped up.
Yeah, it's not just about allergies. Oh, that's good. That's good, Phil.
Nice hat.
Not for the whole meeting, but just cuz.
Oh, please, the
Oh.
whole meeting.
Oh, could you get my hat?
Which one?
The one in the big one in the.
Hi, Sue. Just jetting in from Vegas, baby.
Are we supposed to wear hats?
No, but sometimes Peter does, so I thought I would, and I'm the ghost. I am your host,
Thank you.
your ghost host.
There.
Please step this way. So we'll give it just a minute more or two.
Charmaine, I like it.
Oh, you look like a pilgrim.
That's
Oh, I'm
And
sorry.
Gary's got his traditional headband, so.
You're a buccaneer, and Charmaine just always has a bunch of hats around. I thought you know what? We should all dress as Gary next year. It's a really easy, really easy costume. The ponytail and the band, we can buy them attached to each other. All righty, so I think we can get started.
okay.
Sue's got
Lisa,
into the spirit.
Say
Oh, it
something.
look, oh, Karen, the
Ah.
Golden Gate. Thank you. Is that actually a costume or is it just your work uniform?
No, this is a commemorative hard hat from the August 27th, 1997 groundbreaking for the Golden Gate Bridge seismic retrofit project.
Well, there you
Of course
go.
it is.
Of course, I should have immediately recognized it. Anyway, let's kind of get started because some people might join. Lisa Johnson, believe it or not, is multitasking. So she is simultaneous. She is simultaneous. Go figure. She's simultaneously in the very important Terminal 1 meeting. So she's kind of monitoring that for us, and she'll pop in and out. So why don't we go ahead and call to order and just see, I think some people will join us in a little while. This is a meeting that is, do we have the police? Yes.
Yes, they're on.
Is it true that Lieutenant Stonebreaker is no longer the proper title?
That is true, but
Congratulations, Captain Stonebreaker.
Yay.
thank you. It'll be effective Monday, so Halloween. It's
How appropriate.
right. The chief actually asked, "Is like, do you think we should do it on Halloween, or what do you think?" And I'm like, I definitely want to do it on Halloween because I was promoted to sergeant almost 10 years ago on Halloween. So I think it's cool. And my kids are way older now, and it'll be fun.
Hi, Sergeant Patchen. Thanks for joining. Let's call the meeting to order now that, you know, the speakers are here. And then the rest of the meeting is going to be kind of light. We had been dealing with a lot of serious issues, and I think we'll have an opportunity to go back to some community briefs and just telling you what the update is and what the end of the year is going to look like. So it's now 7:34. Let's call this meeting to order. I know that almost all of you read the minutes from last meeting, correct?
Yes.
Any corrections or objections to last meeting's minutes?
Nope.
Okay, that sounds great. Do we have to move to accept them?
I move to approve.
I second.
I just wanted to say they were the most excellent PRNC minutes I've read in a long time. Compliments to the author.
Oh, you're the author, honey.
Sue did a major
Edit.
re-edit, or 3 or 4 of them.
Well,
Well done,
he's the guy right there.
well done.
Alrighty, so moved and accepted. Let's get this started. Our police is currently overworked and understaffed, so we are grateful that you were able to join us. It's been a long time since we've had RPD with us, and just for a short time. So I'd like to welcome Sergeant Patchen and the just promoted on Halloween, now Captain Stonebreaker, who has been part of our community for years, particularly dealing a lot with mental health issues and home. So he's really a talented guy. Could you guys just give us a little update report on what's going on in our neighborhood?
Definitely. So we have a new program. It's kind of nice. We have this program where we can actually look in. It's kind of a one-stop shop for us. It's called Prnc, and we look up your neighborhood, and you can tell how many calls for service you guys had, or reports that we've taken, or any type of like violent crimes. And just in that 30-day span in the Point Richmond area, it says that we had a total of 15 reports taken, as far as one being a pursuit that we had that ran through there. We had a couple of brandishings, 5150 calls. So we had a mental health call that we took there. And the other ones are kind of various, like fraud calls, loitering, stolen vehicles. We had 4 of those and 4 petty thefts. So the the vehicle thefts tend to be on average out there right around that average 4 or so monthly. Unfortunately, that's just kind of the way it is in the city, where it's like you kind of have that average stolen. It's just one of those things, like either going to recover them there or you're going to have them stolen from there. But nevertheless, it's still happening, and it may happen in your area where you get them dropped off or you get them actually stolen, and that's the unfortunate part. But anyways, so that's it for as far as like the crimes that are happening in that area. And one thing I did want to just kind of touch on, like you were just talking about, understaffed. We are severely understaffed right now. And I want to say, when I first started working here in 2006, I remember the officers here, the recruiting officer was saying, we're down 50 officers. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of officers. Now that we're not at 50, but we're very close to that. And I think it's just because we were reduced in size. So I think if we were at the same staffing level as before, we'd be down 50. But right now, I think we're right around the 37 mark, right in there. And still losing, unfortunately, because we have some, that are retiring. Still, some are at the age of 50, and luckily they're still holding on, which is great. I hope they hold on even longer. But we are recruiting as much as we possibly can. I'd love to say we're recruiting at a fast pace, but we're not. Unfortunately, we are, but we're doing interviews like we've never done before. So before, we used to have scheduled interviews. Okay, we're going to do interviews every third weekend, actually, of whatever month, or every month. Now, if we have 3 applicants and we have them ready, we do it that week. And matter of fact, we had probably 6 or 7 last week. And then I know we're going to have a few more in the next couple of weeks. So we're doing them anytime we possibly can. We're probably looking like the military nowadays, when we're making cold calls, like, hey, you interested in signing up to be a police officer? So we might have to get to that, but we haven't got there yet. But we are recruiting like crazy. And we want to get back to that 100, and I think we're approved for 145 now, right in there. We want to get back to that number so that we can provide the best possible service, and get back to the community policing, aspect of it, where we can get our officers out there, back on bicycles, back out on foot, giving them an opportunity to get out of their cars and contact community members. We still train that way. We still, we tell our officers, we just had our meeting just Tuesday with a couple of our newer officers, and we're like, this is one thing we really want you guys to be doing, is getting out of your cars and contacting community members, contacting business owners, and really getting to know your community. That's important. It's really important for your career, and it's important for the police department. So we want to bridge that gap, and and build the best relationships we can out there. So we've definitely encouraged that. So I'm hoping you guys see that. And if you don't, I hope you start to see it. But that's kind of where we're at right now in the staffing. We probably are right at about, maybe Patchen might even know more, but I think we're at about 100 on the streets. Not on the streets, but 100 total, even as our detectives are upstairs. And we have about 55-ish on the streets to spread across 5 teams. So we're working hard to get those filled. And there was a question, we've heard this question a couple of times about the UCR data reports, and the crimes not really being accurate. And
I would just ask if you could clarify what the UCR is for those who are not familiar.
yeah, and I'll let Patchen move on on that, because he was actually records there for a little while. That really helps. And what's really nice about the police department is you can get all these different experiences. And one of the experiences that Patchen had for a good 6 months was filled in as the records supervisor. So I'll let him go ahead and touch on that.
It was a great experience.
Did a great job.
I have a rudimentary knowledge. I was kind of thrown into that position. We had a records manager that departed, so I was assigned up there for a short period of time. And what you basically have is you have UCRs, your universal crime reports. There's been a shift. Basically, the industry standard has shifted to where in the past, basically, easy way to explain it would be is if we had a home burglary where during the burglary they vandalized the house and they stole a car. The top tier or top level crime is what would be reported under the universal crime report. What you would lose is the vehicle theft and the vandalism, and potentially only that home burglary would be reported. Well, basically, there's been a recognition that, hey, we're underreporting these stats because, hey, there's actually 3 crimes associated with that incident, but we're only reporting the one. We need to be reporting all 3 of these crimes so that we actually have accurate reporting and transparency in what's actually occurring. So I believe it was effective as of last year. We went to I wouldn't be able to tell you what the acronyms for, but the NIBRs and CYBRs are the California and the national standard now. So there's had to be a complete revamping of our computer system and our report writing systems in order to be in compliance. And the reason for that is that there's certain things that have to be captured within the reports in order to accurately report that data to the state and federally. So last year was one of the first years where we actually started reporting all 3 of those crimes, not just the residential burglary, but it would have reported all 3 of those. We have to capture and report all of the crimes associated with that one incident. So it's not just one crime, one incident. If there's 20 crimes that occurred, then we need to report all 20 crimes. So that's where you might see a little bit of a difference in the reporting is we're in the process of shifting over. Now, again, this being new, our crime analyst section still uses UCR. That's what the way the system is set up. I believe they're going live in January, where the crime data that we're actually reporting through, I believe, Open Richmond and other avenues, it's going to start reflecting that NIBR standard, not the UCR standard. So this is just a shift in our reporting. It's just taking a while for it to kind of be rolled out and for it to be rolled out evenly across all fields, if that makes sense.
That does, thanks. And with the violent crime, is it the same? Because they don't match either.
It's all crime. So
Okay.
ideally before, let's just say we have a shooting that was actually in the process of the shooting occurred during a robbery and they also stole a car, right? We might only be reporting the robbery and we actually lose the assault with deadly weapon and we lose the vehicle theft. So now all of those, basically all of the crimes that are listed in the report are now going to be reported, where if let's say I arrested somebody and I charged them with 20 offenses, the highest level offense was the single stat that was reported. The other 19 additional charges weren't reported. Now they are.
So you're only getting 1 charge per person that's arrested, basically. So that person's arrested and you got the highest charge possible to that person. So that's really what it reflects.
Great. I see we have some questions and I didn't notice in what order they came. Zoom people, the first hand that goes up moves to the top left, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
It
great.
was
Now,
June,
that's helpful because I was
Lisa,
writing it
and
down.
Amanda.
Fantastic, June.
I heard there was someone arrested sort of loitering outside the school fence, and I've been very concerned about that fence with the new kindergartner. It's quite low, and I'm just waiting on someone to scale it and do something horrible. So
Do you know when or about that was supposed to have happened?
3 or so weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago.
I don't have any crime. You're referring to Washington Elementary?
Yeah.
I don't have any crimes occurring in the vicinity of that school looking at our crime mapping.
Okay.
So what
What
that was
what we
called?
kind of-
All I know is that someone, I don't even remember where it was. I don't know if it was on Nextdoor. It might have been on Nextdoor. Someone said the police came in and took him away.
Let me take a look. There's one somewhat close. Let me just see what that is real quick. I might be able to better.
And I wonder if while you're looking for that, if you guys have any thoughts about the fencing there, and I've brought it to the attention of the school board. It was in disrepair, so they did come out and tie it back up so that at least it wasn't flopping over. But I just, do you have any thoughts about how to advocate for better security at the school, or whether it's needed, or whether it would even do any good if somebody really wanted to do something to our kids?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's worth having a conversation with the school and find out what their real thoughts are on that. And we can also do an evaluation as to see, to see what they need to adjust to make themselves, safer. So, I mean, I would think they would want to be as safe as possible. Obviously, I mean, I know they want to be safe as possible, but I mean, as far as like security, fencing, gates, things like that, I think that would be the top priority for them. So it's
the guy who came out to fix it. He said if they built it today, it would be 6 feet tall. It's only 5 feet tall now. And it's a chain link, so easily climbable. And he said, well, a new fence is expensive. I thought, well.
So
wow.
I think I am seeing the incident that you're referring to. There was I think there was a report of a transient type individual. I don't have the date on here, unfortunately. Let me see. I lost it. The incident basically was resolved. The officers did make contact with the person to determine that he was suffering from a mental health episode. He was placed on a 5150 hold.
Yep.
All right,
And then the thing I was talking about earlier could be a CEPT head, a crime prevention through environmental design. It could be something like that. One of our officers can go out and do a report and maybe help them out with that. And at least we've at least told them what they need to do to make this safer if something was to happen.
That's really interesting. And I would need to coordinate you guys with the school to do that.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'd either have that conversation with the school, or if you were the, person that sparked that, absolutely, that's fine too.
Oh, okay. Oh, great. Thank
Do
you.
you have a contact at the school you already speak?
So I have a school board member, and I do have the admin's contact at the school, so I can put everyone together, I hope.
And I noticed the PTA president is with us today as well, so.
Oh, that helps.
That's a nice triangulation.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jim. Lisa?
Hi. So I just first of all want to say thank you for coming back to the PRNC. It's awesome to finally have you guys here. I know you're understaffed. So I appreciate you being able to make it tonight. I just wanted to know if you could give the community an update on whether or not the carjacking that happened behind the Baltic Kiss, if there was somebody arrested in that. The sideshow that just happened at Cutting End Canal, was there anybody who got their car impounded or anything as a result of that? I know I heard it took you guys 45 minutes to chase them out of the city. So
yeah, that was a tough one.
That took for you guys to get them out. And the weekend before, there was just a similar incident where
that was actually an interesting one. There's a funny story behind that.
I know they ran into RPD.
They did.
That was okay. So there's that one, and then there was a one this last weekend that I was working. But I'll let Passion touch on that that second one.
So I saw in preparing myself for the meeting, I saw there's some questions regarding carjacking. I see no carjackings occurring in the Point Richmond area. There's some vehicle thefts, but there's nothing even loosely associated or near a carjacking. I looked near the Baltic. I don't see the closest crime that I have is I think an auto burglary. And about a block away, I had a vehicle theft. I don't see any reports of any carjackings occurring in the last 60 days in the Point Richmond area. So I'm not sure. Do you know when that was supposed to have happened, or?
I just heard it happened behind the Baltic Kiss one weekend evening.
What kind of seems to happen is that I think the rumor mill goes, and sometimes it's a vehicle theft, and then somehow it turns into there was a carjacking. But I don't see. I even looked at the vehicle thefts because sometimes the person's nearby and they steal the car, so they feel like it's a carjacking because they were in the area, but it doesn't meet our crime definition. But the stolen vehicle reports that I even read in the area were ones where, hey, they parked their car, they came out the next morning, they were gone, they weren't even present, it wasn't even anything near being a carjacking. So I did try and research and see what I could find on that call, and I was unable to find anything regarding any carjacking occurring there.
And thank you for clarifying. And then on the sideshows, do you want to just give a brief update on the two sideshows that happened?
Yeah, so I'll let Lieutenant Stonebreaker speak about the one from last weekend because he was present for that one. It's funny because somehow they don't realize the PD's there. I don't know if you guys recall about I'm actually still waiting to go to court on this case. About 5 years ago, we had an officer that was hit at a sideshow. They decided to do right there at Marina Bay and Regatta. So a block from the police department, they didn't realize it. Well, obviously they're not paying attention to their surroundings because they decided to have their sideshow at South 23rd and Cutting. The officers attempted to disperse them, and they started following some cars out of the area just to make sure that they weren't going to be doing any other nefarious activities. And basically, as they followed the car out of the area, you know, the easiest way to kind of say it is we're not going to catch all of them. They overwhelm us by numbers. We don't have the staffing to catch all of them, but the goal is to kind of catch one of them, at least get one of them, get something, right? So as one of the officers was following a car, one peeled off from the pack and pulled into the police department parking lot. So they followed them in to make sure they weren't going to start, you know, doing something stupid in the parking lot. Well, they quickly realized we made a bad move when we pulled into the parking lot of the police department. At which time they decided to make a bad situation even worse by a passenger jumping out of the car and scaling the fence into our secured lot. He then ran through that lot and went, holy crap, there's a lot of police cars here. This probably isn't good. And he decided to scale the inner perimeter fence around the police department and ended up by our locker rooms. At which point there were some police officers that decided to exit the building and try and assist him with his tour of the department. He ultimately discarded a loaded firearm right by our locker room, and he tried to hide in some bushes in our parking lot. The CHP air unit was overhead, and they were able to direct him in. He was basically taken into custody without incident. And the nicer part was we were able to walk him to our jail instead of having to drive him. So he just got walked over. So almost simultaneous to that incident, associated with the same sideshow, another group of cars decided to break off, and they drove basically to the dead end of Marina Bay. They ended up at Vincent Park. And once they were kind of cornered in that area, the officer decided to conduct a traffic stop on that vehicle for being involved in the sideshow. And a passenger jumped out of that car and ran off on foot, and the driver decided to throw a loaded firearm out of the window. So we were able to recover that firearm and get the driver taken into custody. The passenger did elude capture in that one. They did a fairly lengthy search, but I think they kind of have both scenes going at the same time. So luckily, you know, we didn't get all of them, but we got 2 firearms off the street, and we towed their cars. They were impounded for 30 days, and 2 people ended up going to jail. And there was another sideshow last weekend that the lieutenant might be able to speak a little further on.
No, mine's not anywhere near as good as yours. So
No, that's why I'm leading to you now.
glad you finished. I should have started. So we actually had a long one where it came into our city, ended up being starting on McDonald, which I don't think they start there. I think they start usually on Cutting on the south side somewhere, and then kind of move through the city. This one started at the Parkway. McDonald kind of moved its way through the city. We pushed them out. They kind of spread out like they normally do, and roll out in packs. We had one officer that tried to make a stop, and when he got out of his vehicle, that vehicle took off, almost hit him, and he jumped in his vehicle, couldn't find him. The sergeant was out there and found another vehicle that was driving at a high rate of speed on Marina. No, there's Harbor Way, southbound, approaching Cutting. Tries to make the stop. He stops briefly and then takes off up the overpass. And he's not going that fast, but it's a full car full of 4 occupants, and 3 other cars actually tried to interfere with the officers stopping the vehicle. So while our sergeant is trying to make that traffic stop, 3 other cars are trying to cut in and cut off the officer, or like the sergeant, to try to get him to maybe go after them for some reason. So it was kind of suspicious. So of course we went, he stayed focused on that initial car he was going to stop. Finally, that car stopped on the on ramp there, going eastbound, and then those other cars took off. So he ended up, every one of those occupants was from Sacramento. He did take that person's car, towed it, and they're an instant 30-day hold. And I don't know if anybody knows, but that is extremely expensive when you're trying to get your vehicle out of the impound after 30 days. So vehicle's gone. he gets arrested, all misdemeanor crimes. So he's sitting, for 8 to 12 hours max, and then he's released, but he's released with no car. And his buddies are released into the streets of Richmond. I'm sure they got picked up somewhere because they're probably in the wrong area. So they probably didn't want to get caught anywhere in the city if they're not from the city. So I felt like it was a success. No one got hurt. The sideshow did subside after that. And someone went to jail and a car got towed. So anytime we can do that, or we can identify vehicles that we can track later, is exactly what we're trying to do out there. We can't get them all, so we're trying to identify plate numbers and get to them after the fact.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you. That was
Thanks, Captain.
2 blocks taken off the street in the last one. And Bisa French reported last night to the council that so far this year, RPD has taken away 200 guns off the street in Richmond just this year alone. So congratulations. I want to commend you. You guys are severely understaffed. You're committing lots of overtime hours. Your safety is at jeopardy just as much as all the rest of us, if not more. So I just want to say thank you, and keep up the good work.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Amanda.
Thank you,
Unmute.
guys. Yeah, quick question about the reporting changes. I'm just curious how they're going to change sort of benchmark reporting, or how we're going to be able to compare year over year, so that going forward, the numbers don't look severely inflated.
I know that I believe if you go to the open data portal, there is some verbiage in there, or there's a disclaimer that will, I think, somewhat addresses it. I think I've dealt with it with our the crime unit, and basically there's not going to be any way to really gauge how much is this going to inflate. You're going to see inflated numbers because we're going to be reporting more accurately, right? So there's going to be a natural increase in the number of crimes as far as what we're reporting. There's not going to be any way to, I guess the only way you could really parse out the data would be looking at the number of cases that we took, as far as reports that we took versus charges, and you'd be able to kind of look at year over year to go, hey, how many reports have we taken year over year, and then look at how many actual crimes we're reporting. So if you're not seeing a huge uptick in reporting, but a huge uptick in, say, like burglaries, well, then that's probably going to be because of that secondary reporting that's now occurring, if that kind of makes sense.
Man, that's a great question. Seriously, great question. And I think that Sergeant Patchen's doing an excellent job answering it. We don't have a really great answer for you. We're winging it right here, and I think everybody knows that. I think Sergeant Patchen did an excellent job explaining that. But honestly, like, we don't have a good answer for you because it's honestly going to be inflated. I think there's no other way to look at that, because they're not going to go back and change things around. So yeah, it's going to look inflated. And I think definitely without doing the research, you're going to see the inflation there, right? Unless you were going to sit back and do that research on each year.
What I would say is that I wouldn't expect a huge uptick in violent crimes, because those part 1 violent crimes were what were already being reported, if that makes sense. So those were the top tier hierarchy crimes that were already being reported. If anything, what you're going to see is a secondary uptick in, say, property crimes, vandalisms, burglaries that were associated with those violent crimes that previously weren't reported, if that makes sense also.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm just curious, like, we're going to be measuring trending, and it's going to be completely off.
Right.
So as new programs and things are put in place, how do we look at the impact of those things when we're measuring a completely different way?
Yeah.
We're going to put our crime analysts to work on that.
All right. Thank you, guys.
And because it's kind of complicated, it may be a time for the beginning of the new year, when you guys have started to work with it a little bit, to invite you back to answer some of the more complicated questions.
Oh, I don't like complicated questions. That's tough. No, I'm just kidding.
We'll write really big in crayon, and we'll send them to you ahead. One more question from Peter. Thanks, Amanda. Peter?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea why these sideshow folks came down from Sacramento to Richmond? Seems like there's a lot more open space around Sacramento.
Yeah, I know. It's just not as fun out there. So they have, I mean, there's groups, right? And so they don't just pick on Richmond, but it's on social media platforms, and these guys all know where to go. They know where they're meeting up, and they start their sideshow activity there, and then they'll move on to they'll convoy over to Oakland or San Francisco or wherever the target locations are going to be. But we're just as much in the mix as any of those cities I just mentioned: San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose, San Leandro. I mean, they're going to work their way up and down the 80 corridor, and they'll even hit the freeway as well and the bridges. So yeah, there's no real, I mean, there's no real reason as to why, other than those are the spots that they've already selected, and Sacramento's getting them too. So I'm sure Sacramento's made some Richmond arrests out there, or Oakland, things like that. So we've got them from everywhere before. Fresno, I think that was early on when we were getting the sideshows out there at Hilltop. We were arresting people from Fresno, down south, just Bakersfield, all over the place. So it's pretty well widespread. So there's really no real target location. But go ahead, Passion.
There's nothing special about Richmond. It's just.
Well, I think Richmond has, it's a city by the bay, and it has, a reputation somewhat like Oakland. And so what you kind of find is that they actually start, so they may be from Sacramento. We actually see a lot from Central California also. The officer that was struck during that sideshow 5 years ago, the people that were arrested were actually from Patterson. They drove up from Patterson, but they communicate via social media. And what it is they know they're going to show up, and we're going to chase them out. And so they basically start at one location, and so we'll get a heads up from Vallejo that, hey, they're doing a sideshow here. Word is they're coming your way. And literally what ends up happening is they drive up 80, they get off in Crockett, and they do some sideshow by the Dead Fish. Then they get back on the road, and they get off maybe in Hilltop or Pinole, and they know that they're going to keep getting pushed out, so they leave us, and then they go to Oakland. So it's not a matter of us pushing them out and then they're done. They know they got pushed out. They then communicate via social media, and they go, hey, the next meet spot is at this intersection in Oakland. And they literally travel around all night, sometimes till 3 or 4 in the morning, hitting all the different cities around the bay, basically. And
some of them have different goals too. Some are willing to be chased, like, hey, chase me, because they know that, well, they think most agencies are just going to give up because they have a no pursuit policy, which a lot of agencies have now. And so they'll pick on those types of cities where they know they're just going to get pushed out. But we are working on putting together a team that's going to be more county-wide, that's going to be able to target these types of events, so that we can do more while they're going on and after. So it's too much for us to even follow up on later on, with all the plate numbers we get, but at least we can get the plate numbers and identify the people that are involved, identify the cars, and things like that. And if we can get one, and if Pinole can get one, and if Oakland can get one, I mean, that's amazing. If we're all able to make traffic stops, and they stop, and we get these cars towed, we get these guys cited or arrested, then at least we're making a dent in it. And that's all we can really do when we're completely outnumbered.
And are these private cars, or is there a percentage of them that are stolen?
All the above.
Yeah, exactly.
I've seen videos of them renting a U-Haul pickup truck and spinning donuts in the U-Haul pickup truck.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a lot of it, they have these cars that are modified, and they want to show them off that they can, that they have their Pontiac G6 that, has racing slicks on the back, and they want to show off how cool their car is. And so they're out kind of showing their cars off to it being stolen cars. I mean, a lot of times I'd say they're not stupid, and they take the plates off the cars because they know that that's the only way to identify them. If they leave the plate on, we're going to be able to find them. So, but it's kind of a mixture of all the above.
Thanks, Peter. And officers, thank you so much again for being here. We hope that in the new year, we'll have a chance to bring you back and see how the new reporting is going. We're very grateful.
Every month, if you guys are, we want to at least get a beat officer on these meetings as well. this is it looks like our first time back. So I want to make sure that, we can at least be here, have a uniformed officer. I'm really super proud of Sergeant Patchen for throwing on a shirt.
I didn't know the sweatshirt was an option.
My
Trying to be
bad.
professional for the new captain.
Look,
Matt, it's your shirt.
It's my bad. I was coaching my daughter out in the backyard, and that's why I was running up to this meeting. So, but yeah, no, we definitely want to get somebody to attend every meeting. So,
Gentlemen, thank you so much. We're really grateful you were there.
No problem.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Thank you guys. Have a good night.
That was a good meeting, but we are running a couple minutes ahead. So we're behind. So I'm going to move really quickly through what I wanted to cover. June was going to comment just really quickly on the Halloween festivities.
Yeah, so I don't know if everyone remembers, but a couple of years ago we did the scavenger hunt because of the pandemic. It was a lot of fun, so we're going to do it again, try to make a tradition here. We need neighbors to decorate. I will drop the website into our chat function here. Basically, the kids find decorations from the sidewalk that are on the list. So if you would put up something from the list, that would help out. And also we're giving out prizes. Yeah, exactly, Karen, thank you. But I will put it in the chat as well. We're giving out raffle prizes. So if you'll send in a picture to pointrichmondneighborhood@gmail.com of your hunt item on your house, we will put your name in the raffle. This is only for Point Richmond residents. The kids who are doing the hunt can come from anywhere, we don't care. But we're limiting the raffle, we're limiting the hunt to within Point Richmond. And then there will be a costume contest on Monday, and the raffles will be on Monday at the Prnc party here in Point Richmond. I think that's it, unless there are any questions.
And we sent that information out in the same newsletter that this Zoom meeting's on, so you all have it in your inboxes. Thanks, June. I'm gonna crank down a list of my stuff. I just want to say I had a very, very good conversation with LaShonda White. Who's in charge of Parks and Recs right now. Concerned the center will be made available to nonprofits who with a certain set of criteria. That means that the meetings will have to be open to the public. There can be no money charged, but we can try to work around some certain things. Kate and I can have a conversation later in the week about what I talked about. So it's not just the one-time deal. So we will be able to assist the nonprofit in having meetings there, either directly contacting the city, and there's just a brief form you'll fill out, and then the fee will be waived or discounted depending on the nature of the organization. So that was misinformation that I had. The only event we have scheduled there, we'll hear about in a little while from the Arts of Point Richmond. Something that we're about to start is surveys that will be coming to your inbox. The first surveys are going to involve traffic safety, so that survey may be a little longer, but our intention in the upcoming year will be to send out surveys that you can easily answer within a couple minutes. And that will help us to determine what's important to you so we can schedule our meetings. And sometimes these surveys, if there's comments that need to go to the city, we'll allow those to directly go to city staff and to city council. So what we're going to do is we're going to help to compile your opinions and move them directly to the city, so they can't say, oh, we didn't know you had a traffic safety issue, or we didn't know you were concerned about sewage smell or whatever. So basically all that will be in public record once we send it to the city. So it's on its way. But in the near future, we hope you'll open and answer those really brief things. Lisa and I and the others board members will design them to be very, very easy and to, kind of get to the information that we need to get to. Our upcoming meeting, Lisa will hopefully be able to comment on it a little later. The next meeting will be in late November or early December, and it will focus on kind of this bike lane traffic safety issue again. That is going to continue to come up until we've made our presentations clear. There's been a lot of concern about the cutting and the bike lanes along cutting and some problems that we've already started to see. that's going to be handled at another time. So what we're finding is we can't talk about all traffic, all pedestrian safety, all bike safety, all at the same time. So we're going to split it into smaller bites so that we're in a position to address the issue and then move on to the next one. So that was a mistake I made when we had the city manager here, because I was new, or a learning opportunity. We can't have everything in one meeting. We need to just focus on one or two events. Janice Playlot grant. At the very last minute, I found out that there was a grant available, or we could request a grant from the Gateway Foundation. I had already, unrelated to Prnc, researched the upgrades and tree safety issues concerning the Janice Playground on Nickel and Washington. It's really dangerous. And so the board had to quickly vote, and we quickly voted to go ahead and just, because it was pre-packaged and I was prepared to take it on, to apply for that grant. We'll find out whether or not we get one. There are supporting organizations that can help us if we get some of the money and not all of it. Next season, as summer comes along, we will then be able to quiz you or to send out these surveys to determine if any of you have grant projects that you would like the PRNC to pursue, something you're working on, or something that you'd like us to work on. And if we can get board members to commit, you'll have some more feedback. I apologize that wasn't available this time, but it was this one or no money at all. So I grabbed this one with at the recommendation of the board. I wanted to thank Charmaine, because I just have to thank Charmaine, who has been working tirelessly on the impossible grant application process for the city. We have the grant for the tunnel, but the paperwork and the hoops are like almost like a horror movie. So I just wanted to give a thumbs up, because I don't know what's going on with it. There is a new notice board behind the library facing the old Starbucks. And that I was able to get the city to put up specifically for nonprofits and public public activities. It has a lock on it so that it's only for flyers for things like the Magic Lantern. And that was kind of Kate's request, that we try to, have more places to put those things. The unbelievable librarian, Susan White, has volunteered to help me maintain that. If you have, your organization has flyers they want up, you email them to me, I'll forward them to her, and between the two of us, we'll get them up, and we'll maintain that community message board without 100 notices about lost dogs and this and that. Because we still do have the community open to the public message board. So that's just right behind the Library and Community Center, and all the stuff we just put up today for the scavenger hunt. And that's my stuff. So let's move on to, let's see who's next. Marty? Did we lose you? Margie?
Oh, you asked for me?
Yes, ma'am. Treasurer's
Okay.
report?
For the Arts of Point Richmond or for the treasurer?
Treasurers. And by the way, I do want to apologize to Bruce and Jan. We are running late, but we're going to get you in a moment to discuss the signage, safety signage for the tunnel on the bike trail. So I want to acknowledge that I know you're hanging in, and we're running behind because of the police reports. Go ahead, Margie.
Okay, so we're in really good shape. We have about $22,000 in the bank. Some of it is sideline for things that we need to do, but we're doing well.
Great. Membership, Buzz.
Have to get to the unmute button. Look, we have 135 dues paying members. We've had the better part of 10 renewals this month, so keep up the good work, folks.
And that's a good, but it is still an entirely tiny fraction of Point Richmond. And if only 50% of those people vote, it's like 1/2 of 1% or 1% of Point Richmond is voting on issues of importance for the entire community. So particularly if you're over in the condo associations or you have access to a lot of people, please remind your neighbors, to come in. We hope to do a mailing before the new year, a physical mailing that will encourage people to join, and that will go to every single household in Point Richmond. So I think it's approximately 4,000 to go out. I'm working on the newsletter this week, and if I can get it done in the next few days, we may be able to get it out by Christmas. Okay, and now I thank you very much for your patience. I know we're running about 20 minutes behind. Now we have Bruce Bayard, who has been working with us to just outreach a little bit. There's been a lot of concern about, oh, and I see Bruce Brubaker is here as well.
Phil, Bruce Byard is at the T1 meeting tonight. So I
Okay.
am substituting for Bruce tonight.
Thanks, Bruce. Bruce Brubaker is here. There's been a lot of concern about the safety in the tunnel, pedestrian safety and bicycle safety, and there is no more sidewalk space. It's a tight squeeze, and we're all trying to learn some road courtesy and how to share that tight space. There's going to be a lot more bikes going through there, and there's going to be a lot more residents in Brickyard Cove. We're about to add about 1,000 residents, so it's going to be a hot spot. And we have Jan Brown here, who is an amazing wayfinding designer to help get the signs, both educational signs and safety signs. So what we did is we reached out to them because some of our concerns were that the original signs were too friendly and educational in an environment that where we felt safety was the #1 concern. So we felt that the issue in the tunnel, and this is feedback from almost everybody, was not a matter of courtesy. It was a matter of alerting people as they were walking into the tunnel or biking into the tunnel that this was kind of a danger zone, and to combine previous messages that they knew, and correct me, Bruce, if I misspeak, or if you feel that we can fluff this out a little bit, that we wanted to have a consistent message, but we really wanted to put an emergency sort of notice up. So TRAC offered us Jan services and to work with us. And Jan, you're really good at this. I have a lot of experience in wayfinding signage, so I appreciate it. And Jan has come up with some ideas, and we thought we'd just like to throw it to the community to vote on these ideas so that the community doesn't feel like TRAC is just doing whatever they want and we're not part of those conversations. So Jan, do you want to comment on what you've done?
Philip, maybe I could
Bruce?
introduce real quick, and then
Sure.
Jan will actually facilitate the discussion. But I just did want to introduce and you gave great detail. Thank you for that. A few more details, only that TRAC has been working with the RBPAC, which is the Richmond Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, for about a year to address cycle conflicts. Bruce Byard, who runs TRAC, is also running the Bay Trail Network in Richmond, and so we get a lot of emails for people concerned about bike and ped conflicts and safety. And so been working in the Marina Bay area for some time to develop some signage that will hopefully let everyone know that they should respect each other on the trail. So as part of that effort, Jan has developed a set of Bay Trail is Common Ground signage that has been installed in the Marina Bay area and pretty well received. And then, as Philip said, he's met with Bruce Byard about the tunnel in Point Richmond, which is a hot spot. Although I have to say, when I first moved to Point Richmond, the sidewalk in the tunnel was 4.5 feet wide, and it was a bicycle and pedestrian trail. So it was widened in, let's see, it might be down here.
Just under 20 years ago, I think.
20, that's how long I've lived here. But so anyways, it's not great. It's pretty narrow. And so there does need to be some kind of signage and some kind of strong effort to ensure that bicyclists and pedestrians and those walking with dogs all respect each other. So with that, I will turn it over to Jan Brown, who is a graphic designer, has some alternatives that she wants to show, and then we will be taking votes tonight. So Jan, please.
Jan, before you start, I just want for the attendees, please notice the signs, because we're actually going to just do a show of hands at the end to see which sign you think best communicates what you want to people to know about entering the tunnel.
All right.
Thanks,
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Bruce, and thank you, Phil, for that introduction. And I want to thank Point Richmond Neighborhood Council for this opportunity to meet you and share some tunnel sign options with you. Buzz, am I able to share? I haven't. Are you able to give me that permission? And while we're waiting for that, I just the option, I'll just share with you that the options I'm going to be showing you shortly will be they were developed to extend, as has been stated, the existing common ground be kind signage to include a special application for the Ferry Point entrances. So as a designer, I'd just like to share with you the process that was started for the existing common ground be kind signs and how that process applies to a special application like the Ferry Point Tunnel sign. And so at the conclusion, just as Phil said, of this presentation, there will be a time for questions and answers. And I hope we have answers to your questions, and that we'd like all of you to weigh in then on what your preferences are on 3 design options that are similar in some respects, and they're distinctly different in others. So how do I have
Give it a try, Jan.
Yes, it works. Okay, here we go. Thank you. And I'll try to be quick. I know your time is precious. So I just want to start with where I was. I was first asked to participate as a graphic designer in response to the research and collaborative work of the Richmond Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. And I had never heard of them, to be honest with you. And so I can't tell you how pleased I was to discover this broad and diverse group that was representing Richmond with multiple interests in Richmond and, a very diverse generational view as well. So when I got involved, they had already united in a shared focus that underscored the trails are common ground theme. And then added the be kind message. And they had already done the hard work, which is sort of the back and forth of wordsmithing and essential messaging that really makes the job as a designer much simpler. So I couldn't be more pleased with their work. And I want to share this with you now. As you can see, that you start with a challenge, and they had already figured that out, especially I think after the pandemic when everybody was hitting the trails. And there wasn't any room in the Marina Bay anymore either. So a lot of what you're dealing with, only you have a tunnel. So the signs were already selected, or they already understood they wanted 2 signs. One would be larger with instructions and located at the hubs of intersecting pathways, and the other to be a sign, a smaller sign, but with very simple messaging for the people who missed the first sign. And typically that'd be the ones that are whizzing by, right? So we really limited it to just 3 instructions with distinct, verb, action, words, but kind. So that's it was my job to just sort of distill that information into the overall feeling, which was that the signs are engaging and friendly rather than regulatory, and that the design objective was friendly, colorful, and readable. And the primary focus for these signs were common ground or multiple users, which has sort of become an identity of sorts. You can identify them from a distance once you've seen them a few times. And then the be kind message for all users. So then now going to your situation here at Ferry Point Tunnel, I really appreciate the challenge here. I grew up, in Richmond. I learned to swim at the plunge. I don't remember ever going in that tunnel back in those days. But anyway, I do. It really is an interesting challenge, and I feel like the track has been very receptive to the concerns. So the design directive really was that this special application would draw attention to the two-way multi-user traffic upon entering the Ferry Point Tunnel at both entrances, and it should be cautionary, provide simple information, and relate to the friendly common ground, be kind theme. And it was also raised that we needed to be sensitive to the landmark, to the historic tunnel, and even John Worley's artwork there. So anyway, primary focus then is readability, which is true for all signs, of course, and recognizable caution for all users, and then association with the user-friendly Bay Trail as common ground, be kind themes. And you can see, I'm sure you've all noticed these signs, which you just saw. This is the information sign, and this is the approach to the Ferry Point Tunnel from the at the north portal, and then this is looking the other way from the looking north from the north portal exit. So now the design choices. So here are 3 signs. Each of them reflects I guess a level, if you will, of friendly versus regulatory. And starting with the simplest, most friendly, and that was share the trail. And this is a 24 by 24 inch sign. It would have the same common ground theme, and then the next one is number 2 is has some caution. It uses both the diamond shape, which is iconic for caution, and also gives some explanation of what the caution is about: two-way bicycle and pedestrian trail. And then with this sign, it also is a slightly lower, provides a lower profile. It's a smaller sign. It's 18 by 24, in case that's a concern. And I'll show you what all of these look like up against the entrance next, so you can sort of see the difference. And then finally, the third option, which includes a traditional yield to pedestrian sign, and the information, and it's a traditional traffic sign, really. It's the traditional caution diamond, and an instruction to the bicyclists, and some information. But it's connected to the friendlier common ground sign, which gives some specific directions in a friendly way to all the others. So we sort of we're trying to cover all the bases for all the users. And so you can see there's sort of a level of difference in terms of these. And here is just so you can sort of see, this is approximate, but, and also the public works, of course, will need to figure out how to install these, and they're going to do it their way, I'm sure. But this is how they might look. So here was the first option, 24 by 24 inch, share the trail sign. This is the other option. It's a little bit smaller, kind of tucked in there. And then this is the third option. And on this side, the spacing is a little bit tighter. They may be on a pole, or they may be on spacers that are directly applied to the facade of the mural. So that's that side. Whoops, sorry, went wrong way. And then here is the other side and how it might look. There's a little bit more spacing, but this would be similar. And it's interesting to note this side here. Can you see my cursor circling around? That's a bicycle yield to pedestrian sign. So this cautionary sign is a duplication of that, and that's more of a regulatory sign, and it's on both sides, just a few feet from the tunnel entrance. And it's primarily, I assume, for the bikers that are coming out and going in. So just to run through quickly then what the three signs that are being proposed are. This is sign 1, share the trail. And there are some who would say that just having the sign up and on at the entrance is enough to alert people. Number 2 is here's the same, the identity of the Common Ground Be Kind image with the icons are still the same size throughout, and the Be Kind message. Common Ground is a little bit smaller to make some room for this sign, which is a cautionary sign. And then the third set of signs, which is yield to pedestrians with the stay right, ride slow, keep dogs close. So that is where we are. I'll flip back, and I could also show you, if you'd like, what we are going to be asking you for your recommendations using the criteria of that Phil has alluded to, and the need for caution and readability, and for connection to the Common Ground Be Kind signs. So we have a poll. Let's see. And here's what that poll will look like. So you can kind of keep in mind what we'd like to ask you is, what sign option do you believe best serves the need and the primary focus? And what sign option would be your second choice? But first, I think Bruce and I were happy to entertain any questions you may have about this process and about these signs.
Anybody?
Well, Jan,
Yeah.
thank you.
Gary was first. Gary Hurlbut, you were first.
Yeah, a note I would make is because we work a lot with the tennis courts that are right on the north side. And one of the big issues, I think, when you think about a tunnel, is it's much different when the bicyclists come from Miller Knox Parks coming through the tunnel and come down by the tennis courts and by the plunge. And what happens lots of times is when the bicyclists come out of the tunnel, then they're speeding down past the tennis courts. And one of the things I thought about doing is putting signs inside the tennis courts that tell them, look to your right when you leave the courts, because as you step out there, bicyclists are speeding up coming down there. And so this is something I can do just in the tennis courts that helps on the safety part, because I've stepped out a couple of times and just got nailed by people. They're speeding up as you come downhill now, coming down. It's very different when you're going up, and you're not necessarily speeding up as you're heading towards Miller Knox Park.
Gary, it might be useful to say, look both ways. Because I've stepped out of the tennis courts and had cars, bikes moving quickly towards the tunnel. So
yeah,
if you're there, and maybe we can approach Jan to do that so that we can have the same messaging, that people, we could request Jan would do that possibly, so that people start seeing these green signs and understand this is all part of the same shared trail. Cordell?
Yes, I would go with the first sign, share the trails, and the reason I say that is because I go up to past Mill Knox Park occasionally, and I have seen bikes going flying, and I'm like, and I said, holy mackerel. I said, somebody's gonna get hit. So my preference would be the first one, share the trail. It's much easier.
All right, so the active members will be voting on these in a moment and ranking them. Thanks, Lisa. Oh, Sue? You're muted.
Hi. Can you put the picture of the options back up?
Yeah, here, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Tech difficulty. There we
Okay.
go.
So I'm just wondering, and I guess I'm assuming that the green background and the logo is part of the mandatory look and feel, because I was thinking that the best way to actually deliver the message is just the triangle part, the diamond shaped part of number 2, because that's really what we're telling people. And I think it's great that Common Ground is sponsoring all this, but I think it takes up space that should have the message in it.
Maybe it should be on the bottom.
So is there a smaller version of the logo that could be across the bottom or something?
Yes, that was set, that was one of several options. I mean, this is sort of a developed
Right, I understand.
direction. So, but you know, Bruce, maybe you can answer this, but it was my understanding that it was desired that that there was a general consensus that connection to the common ground was important, but I don't know that just having a street regulatory sign there, it's more of a City of Richmond and an engineer with Public Works who would facilitate this part if it was just the yield to pedestrian sign.
And there is this intention to have these you know, theme signs all throughout the Bay Trail in Richmond, where you have these issues occurring elsewhere as well. So lots of conversations about what the signage should look like and what it should say. And the RB Pack did a lot of conversations about this. So if there is a way to include this green kind of branded signage for sharing the trail, along with, if desired, along with you know, more regulatory signage, I guess I feel like that would be best.
Lisa, did that answer your question, Jan? Sue,
Kind of.
Lisa?
And may I make a recommendation? We're about to vote on these signs, so you could vote for the other. There is an option for another sign, and you could vote for that.
I think, and Philip, I kind of expressed this to you. I'm still concerned that there's not something that tells the bikes to stay single file. You know, we constantly see bikes go in pairs, and I just don't think it's I think it would be nice to signal them to go single file all the time through the tunnel. It's just, there's just no need to be writing in pairs or double. And that doesn't come across with this signage. So that's my concern.
I'd like to make a comment as a member now and not, you know, kind of hosting this. I saw earlier versions of this, and I just want to point out, and that's why I asked for them to come to the PRNC, because people were discussing what they wanted, but the community wasn't involved. I do want to point out that there were some things that have been beautifully accomplished here. One of the biggest concerns is that people didn't know what the pedestrians were supposed to do and what the bikes were supposed to do. So they say we're sharing the trail, but if you're walking your dog, are you supposed to walk to the left or the right or whatever? So I do see that that was addressed with actual instructions for both the bike riders and for whatever this comment is worth. For both the bike riders and the pedestrians. The other thing was that concerns that, as I mentioned when I introduced our guest, was that being too polite was maybe not going, even as Lisa pointed out, wasn't stressing there was a dangerous situation. So, you know, so I think maybe Jan might want to comment, or Bruce on Lisa's comment, because I do see we now have two options where the yellow triangle, the safety warning, is a priority over the courtesy warning.
And before you comment, I mean, the only one other way is to even like paint something on the sidewalk, you know, just bicycle single file, so that you don't have to, so you could take the signs, leave the language, but depict single file through a graphic on the sidewalk on each side, just as something else to consider, because I think all the verbiage on the signs is important and they each stress different messages. And I like that you gave us several options and have been very accommodating in trying to come up with that. I think it's been a very good process. I'm just trying to think of ways without trying to make the signs bigger and more complicated.
Right, it's too
People
much.
can't read it all. They can't read it all at once, right?
What if it said yield to peds, since the common ground we already know is a two-way bicycle and pedestrian trail in this case, because there's only one trail. What if it said yield to ped, single file? Maybe.
Yeah, and I think what Jan said before, and I don't know, Jan, clarify when you're going from the Miller Knox side through the tunnel, there was, like you said, that white regulatory sign that was already posted that was kind of redundant in some ways to this yellow sign on option 3. So I kind of like what Philip just recommended. I just don't know if that same regulatory sign exists on the north side of the tunnel heading southbound.
I don't think.
When, if I might just say that when the original trail in the tunnel was widened, and that's when that regulatory signage was installed, it's more than 7 feet high. And we had an issue at that time because it was so tall and people don't really see it. When you ride under it, it's so tall. But because it was next to the trail, it had to be above a certain height. There was a requirement for the sign to be a certain height. Otherwise, people might run into the sign. So even though that regulatory sign is there, I'm thinking that people aren't really noticing it very much.
Okay, I appreciate that, but if I wasn't in this meeting, I wouldn't know what common ground meant. To me, I look at that and I wonder if you're selling coffee and you just happen to be saying something nice about, oh, you know, and by the way, share the trail. I understand that common ground is a label or that you want to a brand you want to promote, but I think it takes up too much space. And the green, you know, it's too friendly. We're talking about people potentially being injured here. Or worse.
Too friendly. So
yes.
Philip, maybe a recommendation, let's take a couple more comments and then do a vote. It seems like there's a lot of opinions and I'm curious to see what the group thinks.
Let's hear Charmaine and then Margie's comments.
What I think is this is a very potentially dangerous place. And I think that we should have a sign leading up to these signs that say something like narrow trail ahead. Because if we just suddenly find out that we're supposed to stay right or ride slow or keep dogs close or two-way bicycle pedestrian trail, whatever it's going to say, it's like two people riding side by side, which is very common in Point Richmond. They're just going to keep talking and riding. But if we put narrow caution, narrow trail ahead somewhere, I just think it would set up this situation. And then my next question is there a, like perhaps yield type of regulatory sign that is official, that already says what we needed to say, that's used in California or whatever?
Yes, the one that is, and Jen, I don't know if you can bring that photo up of the tunnel with the I guess it's the south end of the tunnel with the signage.
You mean this?
No, the other side. So there's a sign there that says, I believe it says yield to peds. I don't know if there's a way to blow that up, but I believe that's what that sign says.
Yes,
And there's an equivalent sign on the other side. So this was actually done when the trail was widened, and it was part of the original package, and it was you know, signed off by the engineer. And so I don't know, what I thought I had was to take that sign and, well, it may not say what everyone wants it to say, but it does say yield to peds. That sign is a regulatory sign. It could be removed from the pole and put next to the tunnel so it would be more visible. I guess that's another option. Although I'm kind of thinking to myself, we should limit the options now, because now we have, by my count, we have the original 3 and then there's at least 4 more. So we have to figure out how to do this, how to vote for this number of options. And before we vote, I would like to hear from Jan. There was a proposal for adding, for saying single file on the signage that you've designed. And I wonder, do you feel like that would crowd it too much, or would it be possible to add that to one of your sign designs?
Is it okay to answer that now? I know there's still some other questions, but I'm happy to answer that now.
Please.
My understanding is that that the yield sign, number 3 here, 3A, let's say, this is a custom sign, but there's no reason why it can't be a standard cautionary sign. It's an 18 by 18 diamond, which is standard. You can find these signs, and I'm sure, but it would take a city engineer to approve it. So this would be advisory with that hope, but I see no problem in saying something like 2-way trail and then single file underneath that. There's room for that. So so what I would like is to know, have a direction, because nothing is in stone. Even if you were to all say, whichever number is the one you all like. The fact is that, this still has to be installed and prior to that, it has to be approved, and there will be some very small changes. And I consider that to be a small change. And we can certainly run it by you, of course, prior to that. Does that answer the question?
That answers my question. Philip, do you want to, or Jan, do you want to bring up the poll? Is it time, or are there other
I
comments?
have one more question. Jan, I think you did a very good job, and thank you very much. Why aren't they using the street instead of the sidewalk for their bicycles?
I should answer that. It's very dangerous to use the street. The cars go up to 30 or 35 miles an hour in the tunnel, and bicycles can't ride that fast, and there's no room to pass.
Right. And we're trying to slow down traffic in the tunnel. It's one of our biggest concerns. People zip by. Not that I want anybody to get hurt, but I don't understand, bicycles are always on the street. They're not ever on the sidewalk.
It's not really possible in this case, just because of the width, the narrow lanes in the tunnel.
I'll second that. Riding through a tunnel, and I've done this in Alameda, riding through a tunnel with traffic on a bicycle is terrifying. And riding through a tunnel on a recumbent trike with traffic would be suicidal. So
it's an unpopular reality. They had to, and I've done a lot of research and had a lot of conversations prior to this. They had to narrow the lanes substantially in order to widen the sidewalk. And although I'm not so super happy about any of it, the reality is that people were riding on the sidewalks when they were almost 2.5 feet thinner. So it happened less frequently, but it is what we have to work with right now. So and what we have to work with is not going to change, so we just have to make it as safe as possible. So do we want to try to take a little poll on this and see what we like best, and then maybe just record, because Jan was kind enough to say, Jan was kind enough to say that she could make some changes, and maybe if we can find the style we like the best, and we can either switch out one line or add a line, maybe we're there, if we're willing. So but I think we should, I really think we should kind of poll on what concept we like the best, and then if it's up to one sentence or one phrase, see if Jan feels that we can work it in. So I think we really need to call for a poll, and I think we all understand that if Jan produced 1,000 of these, it still wouldn't be enough.
Yeah.
You
So
know, because
I think you just have to mentally remember these, because you're going to have to close that view in order to see everybody's hands and take the poll.
That's true. So here's the poll. And now I'll stop the share. Can you remember, Phil, can you, or how are you at taking polls and counting?
Peter and I will both do that, and not everybody in this meeting will be voting. So it's just the current members who vote in the PRNC meetings. But basically, I think by now we all know which one we like the best. So, and which one we like second best. So I don't think it's that complicated. So can we go ahead and see by a raise of hands? And Peter, will you double check on this with me?
Yep.
Who thinks number 1 is the best? Do I see no hands?
Uh-huh.
Okay, and is it number 2 is the best? I see no hands. Do all voting members believe that number 3 is the best of the choices we were given? How many hands? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
9.
Sorry, Phil, I don't seem to have a hand, but I would like to vote for number 3. It's Bonnie Jo.
Okay, yeah, we'll add Bonnie.
Thank you.
8,
Thank you.
9, 10. That's 10.
Plus you. Or no?
And everyone who's raising their hand is an active
Did
and
you
current
raise your
member.
11.
Philip, did you raise your hand?
I did. I think 3.
Hold on.
I
1,
think,
2, 3,
yeah, I think 3 also.
9, 10, 11, 12, 13 people's hands, 14.
I'll do it.
I
14.
think 14 hands.
Okay, and I don't think we need a second choice in this case, do we? Jan?
I
Sorry, you're
agree.
muted, Jan.
No second choice required, right, Jan?
Right. No,
Okay.
I think that was a unanimous, but we're not quite done yet. Vote.
Right, so do I understand that we would love to see that concept with the possible either changing the verbiage or including somehow the idea of riding single file?
And the suggestion of a sidewalk paint is a good one, but out of my.
Right. This is part of a discussion we'll be having in an upcoming meeting, and we have already had concerning the Gateway Plaza around the bank building. So Bruce and I are knocking around some ideas of stenciling some things on there, but apparently it's a little more complicated than it sounds. But that's for another day. Jan, I am so grateful for you, and I know that getting you here took a lot of effort on your part, and it took us a long time because we had other projects, and this is new for us, and we look forward to continuing to develop the safest possible mixed use trails and just neighborhood. And Bruce, thanks so much. You're a busy guy, and I really appreciate you being here as well. So that's what it is. We can I can follow up in an email or a formal letter. Is an email good enough, Bruce?
Yeah, email would be fine, Philip.
Yeah, we already know what it's going to say. But
Yeah,
I'll
we
just
know what it's
follow
gonna
up in
say.
2 sentences.
I
Jan,
have
you're a
good notes.
superstar.
We'll follow up, and we'll need to follow up with the city regarding pavement painting. So there's more to do, but this was a pretty good and strong direction. So thank you all.
Thank you all, and thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. Okay, so we're running super late, so let's keep going. Back to community briefs, which have been totally missing for a long time, and we should be able to move them pretty quickly. Is anybody here from Maskers? Karen, do you want to just shout out to the show that is your show, the show you're in, still running?
No, we had a fantastic closing weekend, 3 sold out shows. It was amazing. The next show is Amelie and it opens November 10th.
Thank you so much.
I guess I'm
Cordell.
next. I'm next. So as far as the RNCC go, let's see, the number of participants we had, it was exactly that how many we had this evening. About 1 minute, 1%. So we had 24 on the call last week, and I usually go through like the department reports, but I'll skip that. So we only had one presenter, Eva Mann. So that's MANN, and she came and talked to us about what code enforcement does. So it was interesting because people tell me, they said people had never heard of code enforcement. So she broke down the what they do, you know, like for like blighted properties, that type of thing. So the only old business was the chair, the nominating committee read off the names of people to be our officers for next year, and so that's pretty much self-explanatory. So our next general meeting will be November the 14th at 7 p.m. via Zoom, and I think I know what's going to be on the agenda, but I usually get it like, you know, a few days before. So Jan usually sends me the agenda that quick. So I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Cordell,
Yo,
are they going to, is the RNCC going to be doing a holiday dinner?
yeah, thank you, Peter. I knew there was something I left out. Yes, we were just talking about that in the meeting, and we said I think it's going to be in person. So I think tentatively it's going to be on our normal meeting evening and the second Monday. So I think it's either going to be at the senior center or the rec center. So I will get more information hopefully within the next week or so.
Okay.
And let's see. And then the refreshments, we will usually have refreshments at the RNCC, but due to COVID, that was not going to be possible. So any other questions from the membership? Did I leave anything out?
No,
Thanks, Cordell. Go ahead, Peter.
Oh no,
It's nice to hear your voice again, Cordell. We've been Cordell deprived for a little while.
Yeah, I noticed that because when I saw the September meeting, I was like, no committee reports, and I'm like, I had the notes from the RNCC meeting from last month, and I was like, oh well.
All right, and now just jetting in from where were you, Gary? From Phoenix or Scottsdale?
Arizona. Well, before I talk about that, I'm going to comment. Mayor and I just finished a fall cleanup at the Plunge. So get out and enjoy the barbecues. And also, Phil, thank you so much. Phil does a lot of work there as well. So we just try to hit it in the spring and hit it in the fall before all the weeds come. So get out and enjoy it if you have a chance to play a little bocce ball. But what Phil's talking about is the exciting thing was we took a team to nationals. We actually had a team, it was our top women's team, won the Northern California championship that you'll love to hear. The teams were up against San Francisco. The Olympic Club was one of the key ones. And they said, wait a minute, there's a team from Richmond here? Who are these guys? And our women won 5 straight and went all the way to nationals. So we went to Arizona 2 weeks ago, and we played against teams from Texas, Ohio, Miami. It was really a pretty exciting event. You got to appreciate this. So the first day, there's 2 matches on a Friday. It was 97 degrees. So it was pretty brutal. We actually did pretty well. There were 16 teams. We came in 5th the first day. The second day, our second singles got an injury, and unfortunately, and we had, believe it or not, then we had thunderstorms come to Arizona, so we wiped out the day. Long story short, it was a great experience for everybody who played. We finished right about in the middle of the pack. We'll try to do it again, but just really a big deal for Richmond to actually to do that nationally. That was really cool. Lastly, we have worked with USDA Direct Department, and we're hoping to start up a really robust youth program. The youth program is kind of since COVID really kind of died off and we're trying to get that going again, we're using volunteers from RTA, but that's really not enough to get it going. So we do have a proposal now with USTA to come in, working with us and have a more robust program throughout Richmond, including at the plunge. So that's something we got a board meeting next Friday, actually, we're talking about this. So hopefully we'll see more of that. And those of you who don't know, we actually had started an approach with a program at Washington School using temporary nets in the school ground just before COVID hit. And so that just kind of killed that. So another discussion there, whether we'll do something with the school. That's all I got right now. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Gary. Congratulations.
No, not to me, it's the players.
You helped to get him there, dude. And you
Yeah, I'll pass it along.
Okay, I'm sorry. Red Oak Victory, I think Graham hopped off. Karen, does anyone see Graham? He's gone. Karen, do you want to
Yeah, I have.
chime in again?
I have the flyer for the Homefront Movie Festival, and we have a movie coming up tomorrow night. It's called Whiskey Galore, and it's about what happens when there's a tragic whiskey shortage. And it's I think an all Scottish cast, so it should be fun. And I heard rumors of actual whiskey being served on the ship if you get there early enough. So
I'll be there.
Karen, make sure that those shoot me those over an email. We'll get those up in that new message board behind the library. Thanks.
Sure.
It sounds like it's too late for this one, but in the future. Who's here for women's today? Women's West
Oh,
Side.
I am. Thank you, Phil.
Oh, hi. There you are.
I'll make my 6 paragraphs down to 3, as I know it's getting late. I'm sorry. A new project has been in discussion relative to putting together plans for redeveloping the plot behind our local library on Park Street, across from the Baltic Kiss. It would take needed financial and physical help from our local community, to make it a reality. So hopefully, if that happens, we can beautify the physical environment and also create the charm factor that makes living here and having a business nearby appealing and successful. Gardening work is ongoing, recently pruning large plants and lots of weeding. The grapevines have been trimmed, but extensive cutting back will be necessary in the winter. Maureen DeCombe, our community volunteer, has been doing it in the past, but it would be wonderful if we could have a gentleman to help her. So I don't know if there's a volunteer today, but I would love to know. She has the long ladder, and we wait till the winter, so all the leaves are off. And if you know of anyone that could help her trimming, let me know.
Do you have something to trim with?
She does.
And when do you need this?
It'll be after the leaves fall off, and we'll trim. Would you like to do that, Peter?
Sure. Just make sure you email me because I have a short memory.
Oh, I will.
And you can email me as well. I've got my own tools, so maybe we can chip in. Gary?
Yeah, me too. Yeah, you got 3 of us.
Great. I'll
Yeah,
put
sure.
you guys down. Thank you. And so in closing,
It'll be done.
We are meeting Tuesday. That's Tuesday the 1st. We're having our first fundraiser and we're playing bingo. So you are all welcome. And we're going to have our 11:30 morning. We bring our bag lunch and we'll have a dessert, and then we'll get to play bingo for a fundraiser. So we're excited.
Oh, and I've got to say that the map garden looks great with all the grapes hanging down. Over
Isn't it lovely? And I have to tell you, we have so
amazing.
many, when we're working in the gardens, if you're having a low day, come to the gardens and work, because people come and they appreciate all the work and how beautiful. And we get compliments from community and visitors. And also during the COVID, that Indian statue garden was such a drawing point for people to come together and visit. And they're still doing it, bring in their lunch, and it's been a wonderful atmosphere for all. So thank you, everyone, for doing.
Thank you for keeping our neighborhood beautiful.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Diane. Who's up next? Looks like Peter.
All right. Actually, Kate Spalding has been attending some of the table tennis, right, Kate? How do you like it? You're muted. So we've been doing really well. And Philip, for instance, just today suggested that we might have an opportunity to move back to the community or move to the community center, which would be great because it's central. But people really like the bar. I mean, really, really like the bar. You know, the drinks are pretty cheap at the yacht club. And a lot of people, and when I say a lot, I mean, you know, Andrew Butt has joined the yacht club with his brother. And I missed this Monday, but the previous Monday, he showed up with 2 friends. We have a few ladies. Karen showed up. Kate showed up. Karen has been there before. And we occasionally some of the club members, yacht club members will play. And it's turned into quite an event. The yacht club really likes it. So even if you don't know how to play ping pong, you might just enjoy dropping by and talking about politics or
No politics.
no politics,
Cheerleading.
just whatever. And if you do want to play, doesn't matter if you know how to play or not, we'll teach you. We're very gentle. We won't hurt you. So anyway,
Thanks,
it's
Peter.
Mondays 5 till whenever people get bored, and just push the button on the gate. It's at the Point San Pablo Yacht Club on Cutting. It's a little hard to find the gate, but that's it.
Thank you. Thanks, Peter. Because we're running so late, we're going to drop a little bit of the comments we were going to have by the officers about what's an update. I think that talking to the police was really important, and it was only supposed to be the normal few-minute check-in, but we haven't seen them in a while. So what I'd like to do, one of the things I wanted to do is ask Charmaine if she would say a couple of sentences on the progress of PG&E as we enter the end of the year. PG&E project in Brickyard Cove. And I know that I think as we speak, the design review for Terminal 1 is going on. Lisa, is that still happening or? Yeah, so could you just give us a little update? Because we were supposed to hear from them and at this point, we aren't hearing from them. So could you just fill us in, a minute or so?
So the PG&E project, right. They listened pretty carefully at our last LUDRC meeting. And I think they could hear the concern of the community. One of the biggest concerns is the amount of fill that they want to put in order to accommodate the greatest number of housing units, and also to fill in this very odd shaped piece of land that actually has a concave part into the hill. What they would do in effect is make the Brickyard Landing area seem like a canyon and make the Seacliff houses look like they're in a canyon as well. And since these developments are already there first, then they really need to be more accommodating to the people that live there. So this causes a great conflict. There are quite a number of other things that are issues, but that's the main biggest issue. I invited them. What?
I think you're about to answer my question.
I
Go ahead.
invited them to Brickyard Landing and also to Seacliff to have a view as to what it might look like if you are in some of these most impacted housing units. So I know people at Brickyard, I know people at Seacliff, I could easily show them around. They did not respond, but they were listening. And we also requested that they put story poles so we can get an idea of the height that we can get an idea of the height of the ground, that kind of thing. It's very concerning. There's also many other issues. For example, the road is private and they want to bring a million gazillion tons of fill dirt on our private road. And so you can just imagine, you know, a lot of issues. So they went back to the drawing board and they said that they want to come back after they've redesigned again, probably January, but I'm not sure if it's going to be January because
that's
don't
where I
know when
wanted to
they're gonna
go.
be. So what we hope is that they are listening and they do come through with some improvements. Otherwise, they'll just keep redesigning. We have been talking to them for well over 6 months. They've come to the LUDRC, I think 3 times now. And only one time they came for a vote. We didn't even get as far as we needed to get a vote because of
Thanks,
the number
Charmaine.
of issues.
Thanks. And so it looks like it'll be in the new year. And I know there's environmental studies that are being requested. And if it turns out that they need them, we'll be having this conversation again this time next year. Thanks, Charmaine. So let's move on with the community brace. Anybody want to, you want to speak to CERT right now, Charmaine?
Yes.
Okay.
So Point Richmond CERT, Community Emergency Response Team, has been purchasing various medical supplies. And we're getting backpacks so that they can hold specific medical supplies. And that way we can deploy them in case of a disaster. We're also using it for training. So we're all learning, what are these medical supplies? What do we do with them? How do we store them? How do we use them? So that's really helpful. And there are 2 things that I want to say to the community. If there is a disaster, take care of yourself first. Secondly, take care of your family. And third, take care of your neighbors. I have one more thing to say, and that is, if you have to leave your house in a really big hurry and you don't have a bag ready or you can't think of what to do, grab your laundry basket. In your laundry basket are clothes that fit, clothes that are for the season, and bottoms and tops that probably go together. So you will be well dressed if you just grab your laundry basket. Don't forget it.
Cute. Very cute.
Fantastic. Thank you. Next up is PRBA.
And that's me. So I'll try to keep this short because of time. So the PRNC is invited to the El Cerrito Chamber of Commerce luncheon on November the 3rd, which is next Thursday, at this new restaurant called Tigon, Tigon. And our featured speakers for that one is going to be Mayor Gabe Quinto and Karen Pinkos, the city manager, who will be sharing with us about what's going on with El Cerrito. So everyone's invited. You just go to it's on their website for the Chamber of Commerce, and it's $25, and that includes lunch too. They got some garlic noodles there. That's
All
that.
righty. Thanks again, Cordell. And now we're back with Arts Point Richmond, which has an exciting thing
Great.
coming
I
up.
have
Mary Lee.
she's
Or
back
Margie.
here. I have 4 things to talk about. So El Sol's been wonderful about having shows there, and there's one currently right now with Carl Carlson. Show up on that one. If you want to go to the opening of the next one, it's going to be the 13th of November between 2 and 4. It's a fabulous, wonderful one. A woman that's all about what's happening with the Mexican looks and all. And then we have the Arts and Crafts Show that's going to be here on December 3rd, which Prnc is supporting, 11:30 to 4:30. And then on April 1st, we're going to have the art stroll again. So those are 4 things.
Super. That's a way off, but it was wonderful last year. Thanks, Margie. I appreciate that. Kate, what's going on with movies?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
There may be. Do you get a double voice? That's because I hear the meeting on a cell phone. I couldn't get audio on my computer, so I'll turn it down.
You can
That's
mute
better.
your phone since you're going to be talking. Nobody, you don't have to listen.
Yeah, I won't listen. That's all right. We had a great show of Olga, the Ukrainian gymnast, last month at the Methodist Church. It was well attended, and one of the members brought a Ukrainian woman to, she wanted to see what the film was about, which was 2013 when the Russians made the first attack in Ukraine. And so it was interesting talking to her about her experience from Ukraine. So moving on to November, we have a French drama thriller movie. November 8th, we're always, November 12th. Our films are always second Saturday of the month, and we'll go for November and December, and then continue on in the winter.
Thanks,
Thank
Kate.
you.
Kate, why don't we touch base next week and have a little brainstorm about my conversation with the city today?
I would love to hear it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, in November. I gotta crank some stuff out. Thanks. And now, and I want to mention for the last folks like Pram right now, we will start rotating these community briefs as we have in the past so that you won't always be last. So people will randomly speak earlier or later. Layla, are you going to speak for Pram? Anyone going to speak for Pram? Layla's tucking her child. Oh, there you are.
Hi, sorry, my daughter's asleep, so I have to be a little quiet, and I have the flu. Hi, I'm Layla Dima. I'm a board member at Pram, as well as the PTA president at Washington Elementary. It's my first meeting for you guys, so it's been very interesting. We've been obviously at Pram planning our Halloween potluck / costume contest / haunted house this year. We're going to be doing it on the Monday on Halloween, and we're expecting, I guess, a good crowd since it's been in the Richmond Standard now and on social media. It's going to be kind of small. Hopefully not everyone's going to show up in the neighborhood and the whole town, but hopefully our neighborhood kids will be there, as well as a lot of the Washington students are obviously invited as well. Of course, they will be going off into the neighborhood and doing their trick-or-treating as soon as it gets dark. And I'm not sure what other events we'll be having there, but that is our main event that's coming up on Monday.
Thanks, Layla, and I hope you feel better soon. Layla's my neighbor. I actually heard her coughing on the balcony the other day, and I felt sorry for her. Homeowners, I guess that's usually Lisa, right? Lisa?
Sorry, I'm listening to the Terminal 1 meeting right now.
Do you want to pass?
Say that again?
Do you want to pass on commenting tonight?
Yeah, because I'm trying to hear, I think they're getting close to voting, so I'm trying to hear what they're going to recommend.
Homeowners are excused.
Can I
Charmaine, do you? Please.
Yeah, I just want to say that we had evacuation drill at Brickyard Landing. So all 5 buildings evacuated one by one in an orderly fashion, controlled with ushers, with hall monitors, and with people with snacks and accountability registers. And it was a very well organized event. And I'm happy to say that we had a 40% turnout, which is really big. And we've done this before COVID, but we haven't done it lately because of COVID. And it's annual. and I participate with it, and I was very happy it went so smoothly.
That's good news. My mother lives in a similar development in Florida, and when they did it, 0 people responded because Florida. So there you go. Thanks for that. So here's the story. The board members were going to do a bunch of questions and answers. We've already done it. We filled you in on where we are. So even though we're running 20 minutes late, I would like to take a moment to see if anybody has any public forums. Surprisingly, I see Cordell's hands up.
Yes, and I have some for open forum too.
Yeah, that
If
would
that
be
if,
for open forum.
right. So did you want me to say? Did you want to wait now or
Yeah,
until we get that
yeah,
for it?
and then Lisa's going to say something if they're not in the vote.
Okay, so where are we at on the agenda? I'm trying. Are we at open forum?
We're at the end. We're at public forum now.
Okay, so I had a couple of ideas, like for guest speakers to come for either December or January. So here it is. So number one is I was thinking the board should consider to invite Eva Mann to come talk to us about code enforcement because
she was here last month.
Okay, never mind. So I said, okay, I had another idea for a topic. I was thinking that we ought to invite Tamara Walker to talk to us about employment and training in the city because they just had a job fair earlier today out at Richmond Works, and it was a big turnout. There was like more people that I've not seen in years. It's like because all these businesses are like hiring people. So I was thinking we can invite Tamara Walker to come and speak to us about what employment and training do. That was one thought, and then the other thought was I got the inside scoop. So it's official. We have a new public works director. So I thought I let the board everyone know about it. So he's gonna be starting on, of course, Halloween, and I was like, and I say this: the city sure did tricked us.
There you go. Thanks, Cordell. We're
that was a joke.
actually, it's quite possible that he will be in our January meeting. So thanks for that. I think that the finding out what the city is doing to hire is a good idea. We've got a lot of, just to comment, to bounce off of Cordell, we've got a lot of pressing issues, particularly traffic safety that we want to focus on so that we can move past it. But I think it would be nice to hear from other city departments. Thanks for that, Cordell. And then Lisa?
I just wanted to remind people, and I'm putting it in the chat, that the city is unfortunately moving forward with very limited public input opportunities and review on the draft bicycle and pedestrian plan. It's available on travelsaferichmond.org. Public comments are due November 13th. You can either submit them directly online and or you can submit them to myself and Philip, and we will be collating them. And the Prnc board will, they don't know this yet, but we will be drafting, Philip knows this, we will be drafting recommendations and concerns and submitting them formally to this public comment by November 13th, because it is so critical. So
it was a very shady, let me rephrase that because now I'm the president here. It was a very complicated and difficult process. The big presentation was made just before midnight last night. So there weren't many people there. I went on the website to make comments today, and it is the most complicated website I've ever seen. It has all these complicated maps that you can't blow up, so you can't even see what's happening in your neighborhood. But what I'll do is I'll ask for the board's permission either here or tomorrow morning that maybe we can send out a link to our membership. I think it's important enough because bike lanes are a hot issue right now. And we can send out a link with a little quick tutorial on working your way through the website and getting to the comment section.
Yeah,
in the next day or two. Yeah,
it's very, very critical. And there is so the way the funding works now is if you get state or federal, they're forcing all of this stuff on us without really our buy-in. And they're doing public meetings that don't really have much participation, and they're checking the boxes saying public meeting held, even if that city council meeting was at 11 o'clock when they were all asleep and there was 2 members of the public who spoke, and then they didn't even discuss it. And the next and only other city council meeting will be December 20th, when everybody's away for Christmas holidays and the holiday season. So it's very critical that you guys spend the time to review it, draft your comments, and I would encourage you to submit them individually and to also submit them to Philip and I, and we will collate them as we work as a board to draft a thoughtful response on this.
Thanks.
Lisa. If you
Sue,
can
and then
send-
we'll go to Karen.
If you can send me the information, I can post it on Nextdoor and on Facebook. So that might be a broader.
If you look in the chat under Travel Safe Richmond, you're basically wanting them to go to the draft bicycle and pedestrian plan, and you'll see this calendar, and there's only 2 public meetings left. There's a public workshop.
Lisa, I think that this is a conversation I can have with Sue tomorrow, just to save a little time, because I need to talk to you. Hopefully we can talk tomorrow, Sue. We can look at the website together, and then you can
Because I'm on the
see how it makes
website
sense.
right now and I just want to phrase it properly.
Yeah, it's complicated.
Yeah.
And then we'll finish up with Karen, and I'll thank you all for hanging out an extra half hour. Karen?
I just wanted to, announce my haunted Halloween history hike is this Saturday. And I've got a cast of dozens, well, maybe half dozens, but I've got about 12 ghost characters. It's going to be super fun. We've got, live actors playing dead people. So it should be super fun. So, and that great meeting. Thank you all for sticking it out.
Thank you very much. We do have to wrap up because we're running half an hour late. I thought this meeting was going to end half an hour early. Are there any memories or remembrances or celebrations we'd like to share before we say goodnight? No? Sue? You're muted.
I'm sorry to inform the membership that one of our past officers who was treasurer years ago when I was second vice president, Art Mowry, he passed away a few days ago. So didn't know who knew him, but anyway, he was quite a great character, really nice man.
Well, thank you for sharing that unfortunate news for us, but I basically remember him from, I think, when I first moved here. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for letting this go a little late. I think it is a good lesson when the police come. We'll give them a little more time from now on, but at least we had a kind of normal meeting and we heard back from the community. We are going into serious stuff at the end of the year. The road stuff is going to be a lot of work and a lot of meetings, and then we'll probably hear from the developers again. So the meetings will not be as lighthearted as we'd like them to be, but the purpose of the PRNC is to let us talk to City Hall. And so both types of meetings are important, those for community events and those where the community speaks. Thank you all very much. Sue, hopefully, you and I can talk tomorrow. And I wish you all a good night and a very scary and safe Halloween.
Happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy.
Thank you.
Bye.